Redondo Beach gave sellers a tricky April read. More homes for buyers to compare against yours, fewer homes going pending, and still enough completed sales to make the market look stronger than it may feel when your own listing is out in public. That is where homeowners get exposed. Because the question right now is not simply, will Redondo Beach reward sellers? It still can. The better question is, will this month's buyer pool reward your actual home in your actual lane at your actual price? That is because the risk is not just choosing the wrong price. The risk is exposing your equity, your privacy, your family's routine, and your next move before you understand whether this month's buyer pool is likely to give your home a clean first answer. April gave Redondo Beach sellers two signals at the same time. In the combined single-family area I'm reviewing, active listings rose from 50 in March to 61 in April, and closed sales rose from 31 to 34. That tells us the market did absorb more homes, but pending sales, the homes where buyers are currently writing contracts, fell from 36 to 16. That does not prove demand is disappearing. It does tell us that buyer depth is less uniform than the closing number alone would make it look. I'm Hernandez, and in this update, we are going to look at where the market is still validating quickly, where low supply is not the same thing as deep buyer demand, where condos and townhomes are facing more buyer comparison, and what that means for you before you choose a price, a timeline, or a public launch. And if this decision is already real for you, call me using the contact information in the description. Before you put your home in public, we can pressure test your buyer depth and your active competition. But if you're not ready for that call just yet, use HomeBot to track your home's equity and stay close to the decision without having to make it today. And if this kind of local breakdowns help, subscribe so that you can stay current on the current market. Now, the foundation here is supply, but supply by itself is not the whole story. When I talk about months of supply, I mean how much choice buyers have relative to what is actually selling. Low months of supply can help a seller because buyers have fewer alternatives. Higher months of supply can give buyers more comparison power because they can line your home up against other options. But this is where sellers get in trouble. Low supply helps. It does not prove buyer depth. That distinction is the heart of the Redondo Beach market right now. The clearest place where the market is still giving sellers a fast answer is in several single-family pockets where scarcity, closed sales activity, pending activity, and price retention are lining up. Hollywood Riviera single-family homes are a good example of that. In April, there were 17 active listings, 7 closed sales, and 4 pending sales with 2.5 months of supply. The median time active was 8 days, and sellers received 100% of both original price and last list price. That is a strong, fast validating signal. It does not mean every Hollywood Riviera house gets premium treatment, but it does show that when the price and property fit the buyer pool, the market can still give a seller a clear answer quickly. South Redondo Beach, south of Torrance Boulevard, showed a similar single-family signal. In April, there were 9 active listings, 7 closed sales, 4 pending sales, 2 months of supply, and 8 median days active. Sellers received 100% of original and last list price. That is the kind of setup that can reduce seller uncertainty, fewer weeks wondering whether the launch worked, fewer weekends trying to keep the home show ready, less time for buyers to gain confidence that the listing may be sitting. South Redondo Beach west of PCH was even scarcer on the single family side, with 2 active listings, 4 closed sales, 1 pending sale, 1.1 months of supply, 10 median days active, and 104.3% of original and last list price received. That is a strong signal, but it is also a thin one. With only 2 active listings and 4 closed sales, I would not use that as a permission to make a sweeping claim about every coastal single-family home. It is enough to respect the buyer conviction in that pocket. It is not enough to assume every seller can test the ceiling without risk. Villa South single-family homes also showed very tight conditions. 1 active listing, 2 closed sales, 1 pending sale, 0.6 months of supply, and 5 median days active. Again, that is real scarcity, but 1 or 2 trades can swing the read. For a seller, the takeaway is not automatic leverage. The takeaway is that the first price matters more when the market may give you an answer very quickly. Golden Hills single-family homes were a little less dramatic, but still credible. April showed 13 active listings, 7 closed sales, 4 pending sales, 2.7 months of supply, 15 median days active, and 101% of original and last list price received. That is the kind of market where disciplined sellers can still have a strong position, but it is not a casual market. Buyers are still looking at price, condition, layout, payments, and the next best option. So if your home is in one of these stronger single-family lanes, the opportunity is not simply that the market is scarce. The opportunity is that a credible launch can convert quickly. But the risk is wasting the strongest window by assuming the neighborhood name will do all of the work. The first question is whether buyers are acting. The next question is how quickly they are giving sellers an answer. And after speed, the question becomes pricing discipline. How much of the first pricing ambition sellers are actually keeping? That is why the next part matters so much, because Redondo Beach also gave us examples where scarcity did not automatically translate into a clean first answer. South Redondo Beach, north of Torrance Boulevard single-family homes, had only 1.4 months of supply in April. On paper, that sounds like a seller should have a very tight market, but the same area showed 90 median days active, 2 closed sales, 2 pending sales, 96% of original price received, and 99.7% of last list price received. That is one of the most important caution signals in this whole update. It does not mean the area is weak, it does not mean the homes are undesirable, and with only 2 closed sales, the sample is very narrow. But it does show why a seller cannot stop at the supply headline. Low supply can get buyers to look. Buyer depth and pricing discipline decide whether they act quickly. For a homeowner, this is where the selling experience changes. If you assume low inventory guarantees leverage, you may be emotionally unprepared for a quiet first stretch. You may start second guessing whether the price is wrong, whether the marketing is working, whether buyers are just touring and disappearing, or whether you just need to adjust before the listing starts to feel stale. That does not mean panic after 1 week. It means you need a plan before week 1 begins. And Nido's single family homes add another useful caution. In April, there were 9 active listings, 2 closed sales, 0 pending sales, 3.5 months of supply, 13 median days active, and 104.1% of original and last list price received. The closed sales validated price well, but the current pending signal was limited. So I would treat that as a market where recent closings support confidence, but current buyer depth still need to be checked carefully before a seller assumes the same results will repeat. Villas North single-family homes show a similar kind of nuance. There were 7 active listings, 3 closed sales, 0 pending sales, 2.2 months of supply, 13 median days active, and 106.3% of original and last list price received. That price retention is strong, but the 0 pending sales in April matters. It does not cancel the closed sales strength, but it does tell a homeowner not to build strategy only from what already closed. Pending sales are where we look for whether buyers are writing now. This is the part of the market where a homeowner needs to ask, am I looking at past validation or current buyer depth? Now let's move to the part of the market where buyers appear to have more comparison power, condos and townhomes. I want to be careful here because the condo and townhome market is not simply weak. That would be too lazy and the data does not support it. Across the combined condo and townhome areas in April, there were 102 active listings, 26 closed sales, and 22 pending sales. That is a meaningful amount of activity. Buyers are still there, but they are not behaving the same way in every pocket. Villa South condos and townhomes are the clearest example of why we should not flatten the attached market into one negative story. In April, Villa South had 26 active listings, 7 closed sales, 6 pending sales, 2.9 months of supply, and just 7 median days active. Sellers received 99.5% of original price and 100% of last list price. That says buyers can still move quickly for the right condo and townhome when the price, condition, and overall package makes sense. Golden Hills condos and townhomes also had strong closed sales metrics with 2 closed sales, 13 median days active, and 101.2% of original and last list price received. But there were 0 active listings and 0 pending sales in April. So that is too thin to overread. Strong closings, yes. Broad current signal, no. South Redondo Beach, west of PCH, condos and townhomes are also interesting. There were 25 active listings, 3 closed sales, 3 pending sales, 4.8 months of supply, 7 median days active, and 100.1% of original and last list price received. That tells us that buyers still validate quickly in that lane, but with 25 active listings and 4.8 months of supply, sellers should not ignore the amount of choice buyers have. A fast sale there is possible, a casual launch is still risky. Now look at the comparison sensitive side. Villas North, Condos, and Townhomes had 18 active listings, 6 closed sales, and 8 pending sales. So buyers were absolutely acting. But the median days active was 54, and sellers received 96.5% of original price and 98% of last list price. That is not a dead market. It is a market asking for price discipline. A seller there may still get the transaction done, but the original price matters. The first public number can shape the whole experience. If buyers have time to compare, they are going to compare monthly payments, HOA dues, parking, floor plan condition, outdoor space, location, and the unit down the street that feels like a cleaner yes. South Redondo Beach, north of Torrance Boulevard, Condos and Townhomes had 16 active listings, 4 closed sales, 2 pending sales, 5.2 months of supply, 19 median days active, and 98.4% of original price received. That is a more choice-heavy environment. Not frozen, not broken, but more selective. South Redondo Beach, south of Torrance Boulevard, Condos and Townhomes had 12 active listings, 2 closed sales, 2 pending sales, 6.6 months of supply, and 71 median days active. Sellers received 100.5% of original and last list price received, but that was on a thin closed sale sample. So the price result looks good, but the supply and timing still tells you that the seller experience may require patience. That is exactly why numbers need to be interpreted together. A strong sell to list result does not erase the showing burden of a longer listing period. Hollywood Riviera Condos and Townhomes are another thin but important signal. There were 3 active listings, 2 closed sales, 1 pending sale, 1.8 months of supply, and 162 median days active. Sellers received 97.2% of original price and 102.3% of last list price. That suggests the final ask may have been validated, but the original ambition was not fully kept, and the time active points to real listing stress. With only 2 closed sales, this is not broad enough for a sweeping statement, but it is useful as a reminder. A property can eventually sell well and still create a harder path than the seller expected. But it is useful as a reminder. A property can eventually sell well and still create a harder path than the seller expected. El Nido Condo and Townhomes have 2 active listings, 0 pending sales, and 0 closed sales in April. That is a watch item, not a pricing conclusion. There simply is not enough there to make a clean statement about value, speed, or price discipline. This is also where median sales price and price per square foot need caution. For example, April single-family closings in Hollywood Riviera had a median sales price of $3,150,000, while South Redondo Beach, west of PCH single-family closings, had a median sales price of $1,837,500. On price per square foot, the Redondo and Hollywood Riviera markets show very different figures, from $709 per square foot in Villas North Condos and Townhomes to $1,458 per square foot in South Redondo west of PCH single-family homes. Those numbers can help us understand affordability, property mix, and what buyers were absorbing in that specific lane. But I would not treat price per square foot as a shortcut for valuing your individual home. Size, condition, lot, floor plan, view, location, parking, and competition can all change the real marketable value. So the practical takeaway is this: Redondo Beach is not asking every seller the same question. In some single-family pockets, the question is, can you launch cleanly enough to capture a fast validating window? In some solid but uneven house lanes, the question is, are you relying too heavily on closed sale strength while currently pending activity is thinner? In some condo and townhome lanes, the question is, can your price and presentation survive buyer comparison before the listing starts to feel tired? And in thin data lanes, the question is, do you have enough evidence to be confident, or do you need a more property specific read before going public? If you're watching this and you're trying to decide what kind of risk worries you more, comment fast answer if you are hoping your home gets quick quick validation or comments comparison if you are worried buyers may line your home up against too many alternatives. And if you want help applying this to your home, text me using the contact information in the description. I can help you figure out whether your home is more likely to face fast validation, buyer comparison, or a thinner buyer depth signal before you expose the listing publicly. The bigger economic backdrop helps explain why buyers are acting this way, but it does not replace the local read. The macro report puts the 30-year fixed mortgage rate at 6.3% with the Fed funds target range at 3.5 to 3.75%. It also shows the housing affordability index at 113.7, down from 117.5 month over month, but improved from 104.2 year over year. The West affordability measure was up 12.7% year over year. What that tells me is not that we should predict the next move in rates. It tells me buyers may be in a better position than last year in some ways, but they are still payment sensitive. And payment sensitive buyers are less tolerant of waste. They are less tolerant of a price that assumes perfection. They are less tolerant of condition issues that were not reflected in the asking price. They are less tolerant of a layout, HOA cost, parking setup, or monthly payment that does not feel competitive against the next option. That is why the first week market test matters. It is not just about speed. It is about whether your home's first public impression matches what serious buyers are willing to reward right now. There is also longer-term structural context in Redondo Beach, housing elements and zoning updates, South Bay Galleria Phase 2, the Metro K line extension planning, the AES site, and waterfronts of public realm projects like Living Shoreline and Seaside Lagoon. Those things can shape buyer perception, convenience, density, and future competition over time, but they should not be used as a substitute for current market evidence. A long-term improvement story does not automatically give today's seller more pricing room. It may support confidence, but your current competition sets still matter more when you are choosing a launch price. So before going public, I would separate three things. First, what is the long-term story around your area? Second, what are buyers actually doing in your lane right now? And third, what would happen to your household if the market does not validate your price as quickly as you hope? That third question is the one sellers sometimes avoid, but it is usually the one that determines how stressful the sale feels. Because selling is not just a number on a spreadsheet. It is keeping the house ready while you are still living in it. It is pets, kids, work, calls, parking, last minute showings, private financial decisions, and maybe trying to buy the next home before you know what the current home can truly command. A cleaner market read will not remove all of that pressure, but it can keep you from creating avoidable pressure. The right move still depends on your home's condition, exact competition, timing needs, pricing posture, and risk tolerance. This is not about saying every seller should move now or every seller should wait. It is about not confusing paper value with marketable value. Paper value is what you hope, estimate, or remember. Marketable value is what serious buyers will actually reward in your lane in this market against the homes they can compare with yours right now. If you're not ready for that conversation yet, use HomeBot to stay close to your equity and timing, and subscribe if you want more hyper-local updates that help you think through pricing, leverage, buyer depth, and your next move without having to rely on broad headlines. If this helped you see the Redondo Beach market more cleanly, give this video a like.